Great. Welcome everyone to the Marin Municipal Water Communications and Water Efficiency Meeting, August 16th, 2023. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning. Director Ranji Kush, Director Matt Sampson, Director Larry Russell.
Here.
Director Schmidt.
Here.
And Vice Chair Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Great. And we have a brief agenda, but important one today. So super excited about it. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda? So moved.
Second.
And any comments on items not on the agenda?
There are none.
Great. And a roll call vote, please.
Director Russell.
Aye.
Director Schmidt.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Smith.
Excellent. So I think now we can move on and to item number one.
Public comments not on the
Public
agenda.
comments not on the agenda. Sorry, I thought I said that before.
There are none.
Okay.
There are none.
Anyone else? Monty, you good? Larry, good? Adrian, off to you.
While Adrian pulls that up, we forgot to adopt the minutes of the last committee meeting. Item 1. We adopted the agenda, but not the minutes.
Got it.
If we want to do that quickly.
Yep. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Is that okay? Because all three were, okay. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Sure. So moved.
Second.
Director Russell.
Aye.
Director Schmidt.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Smith.
Yep. I did review them and aye. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, directors. Adrian Mertens, Communications and Public Affairs Manager, here today to provide communications activities update. This update's really going to be focused on our water efficiency efforts. We've got a lot going on communication-wise in the district right now, but really wanted to continue the conversation from our last committee meeting where we were focused on water efficiency efforts as well, because we've made some progress there, and I wanted to provide that to the board, that information. And with me today is Lucia Del Pupo, the Senior Vice President of FM3 Research, who water efficiency and communication staff have been working with on the customer survey that we recently wrapped up and got the findings for about a week ago. So we'll be getting to those shortly. And so for today, for our presentation, I'll first start by highlighting some key campaigns that we've been working on for water efficiency and some of the accomplishments out of those, and then some also key projects that are in progress right now related to water efficiency. Then we'll go through some of our customer research and engagement efforts that we've been working on, and then talk about next steps in our planning and implementation of water efficiency outreach. So for our ongoing outreach activities, I'll first start by talking about the moving item in the middle of the screen there. At our last meeting, I talked a little bit about our Water Smart Gardening Resource Center. It's a really great resource on our webpage, kind of a one-stop shop for our customers looking to find ways to create a more water efficient landscape or garden. There's also information for landscape professionals as well, and it's really curated content from all of our different partners we work with, subject matter experts, others out there who've done great work, as well as our own content. But we did notice in our analytics, it was an area where we really want to bump up the use of that resource and see more engagement there. And so we've made some significant improvements to that page in the last month and a half and worked with our web vendor. So it has much better functionality, is organized better, and hopefully will be a useful tool as we move forward and do more outreach and promotion of that resource. And then this past month, we also did a special promotional campaign of our smart irrigation controllers offerings. It's a partnership we have with Ratio, and we offer a discounted price on those irrigation controllers for customers. And in the past month, Rachel actually offered a deeper discount, and we did a special promotional campaign and had some really good results out of that. I noted them here. 69 were purchased through the promotion. And just for comparison, more recently, we've seen around an average of 17 purchased in a month. And in June, during the height of our drought emergency, in 2021, we saw 67 purchased. So the results from the campaign were pretty good on that. And we were really pleased with how that went. And then also through our partnership with College of Marin, our watershed approach to landscaping class series for the fall. Registration on that has just opened. And we did a promotional campaign to announce those classes. There's 5 being offered. And the classes are based on our watershed approach to landscaping handbook that was developed by our staff some years ago. And so after 1 week of registration opening, we've seen over a dozen participant or registrants in each of those classes. And so that's gone really well. We did a special insert in our customer bills. It's actually currently running to promote that class series. On the other side, it has promotion of our master gardeners appointments that they'll do on site at a customer's home. So we kind of had dual campaign messaging within that insert, but saw some good benefits from that promotion as well. And we have.
Are you about your?
Yeah, just one more thing I was going to say about the College of Marin partnership. We just heard yesterday from the instructor we work with on that, and she's really pleased with promotions, already talking about the winter class series and our plans for that as well.
Just kudos to our Master Garden program. I mentioned it before, and others. It's outstanding, and people should take advantage of it. So maybe anytime we talk about it, we should give people the URL. It's marinwater.org/watersmartgardening. And other ways that you're promoting it. Are you getting it out on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or?
Yeah,
I get asked about this all the time now.
the Water Smart Resource Gardening Resource Center. Yeah, we are starting to ramp. We kind of tapered off because we knew there were some glitchy issues with the site, and we were trying to fix those before we're doing a lot of promotion to send people to the page. But now that we've got that in place, we do have some stuff that we've started up. We're doing ongoing social media promotion and kind of taking one resource at a time and highlighting it each week, and then within that social media post and highlighting that one resource, saying, and there's other resources you can find at our Water Smart Resource Center, and sending people to that site. But just to show kind of the array of different information there, because we know people are looking for different things, and so maybe appealed by different content. And then in terms of our website improvements, we are in the midst of some pretty big changes to the design of our homepage. It's something that we've been talking about and working on for quite a while now. We've heard from a lot of customers on feedback and needs for the homepage. And so, and things that as staff we know were needed. And so we're very pleased to announce that we are near the end of that project, and the end of September that will be going live. And it'll have really great benefits for our water efficiency program. What you see here on the screen is kind of, if you first go to the homepage, what it'll look like. We'll have nice real estate where we can actually do more of a marketing promotion of any program that we have, or an update if it's important news. But we see this space being used a lot to promote our water efficiency programs in particular. You'll also notice at the top that we'll have drop-down menus going forward, something that's definitely been lacking from our site, just in being able to navigate easily throughout and find things within the different topic areas. And so that'll be actually applied throughout the website, no matter what page you're on. And then this is also on the homepage. Once you get to the homepage, scroll down just a little farther, we'll have nice navigation buttons for some of our most, or kind of where we see the most interest in different topics within the district. Obviously, water efficiency and rebates made that kind of button navigation list, and resources for home, for business, and for garden landscape are called out specifically. And then within the major landing pages of our website, we've also done reorganization. This is actually live right now, and it just categorizes our information easier with within each of the major sections of the site, especially for water efficiency. This is something that was really needed, and just in an effort to make it easier for our customers to find content. And then happening in parallel with the homepage redesign, we're also trying to figure out new ways to keep our customers engaged in what's happening in the district as we provide frequent updates. We know we've been very successful with the following on our e-news, and that's a place that our customers are going for information. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in the customer survey findings here a bit later. But so continue to build on that subscription list. We are going to be implementing a pop-up window when users go to our website. They'll be invited to subscribe to our e-news, and it'll highlight different information that they'll be able to receive when they subscribe, including customer rebates and garden and landscaping tips, as well as educational opportunities. So again, that'll go live at the end of September.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Could we do that thing you have with the buttons? Could that be used for the agenda items like that? Could you have it, the agenda, the staff report and so forth? So people have been whining about they have to grind down.
Yeah, so great question. I didn't specifically highlight it in today's since it was focused on water efficiency, but there are going to be some significant changes to how people navigate our agendas and boards and meeting documents as well. That's through our agenda management system project that's also going on and is also aligning with the website update. All of these things have to happen in coordination with each other, and they're all going to go live at the same time. But the agenda management system will integrate with our homepage. It'll actually just be a simple button that gets you to the portal. It's called out similar to how these are actually above these buttons to navigate people to that portal. And once they're there, they'll just get a list of all the meetings, the agenda. They can click on it, click on individual staff reports and items within the agenda to get to what they're looking for much easier. Yes.
It's a flashback for me in 1997 when I started drugstore.com, and I told the engineering team, I just want a button in the upper right corner, and their eyes rolled. They're like, oh my God, no, we can't do that. It takes a whole redo in engineering. It's hard. So.
Yeah, no, it is on the back end. We are working with our website vendor on this project, and it took some building on their end and a lot of planning and work. There's also ADA accessibility requirements that we're trying to ensure that we're carefully meeting. But yeah, looking to go live, and there's actually a lot more features to the redesign that we could probably do at another meeting, just in terms of things we're doing to try to make the site better for everyone. Raising where we have our Google Translate option on the page so that people can translate the content if they need to. Our search bar.
I would suggest rather than doing it to us, that you have a workshop. We have a workshop on it, and bring the public in and say, hey, this is what's changed. I know I find that to be, at least at my age, one of the most frustrating things, like Apple changes the iOS and they don't say a word about what they did. They don't offer you the ability to toggle back. They just say, this is it. It's changed. And you go, okay, where do I find this? How do I find this? And, a little bit of explanation, especially if we could go real time in a meeting like that, where you actually have at least one machine set up to go try it, and just see what happens. Do it at a request. In other words, you do it, what they ask you, show me how to do this, and you show them, I think that would be, because telling us it's fine. There's, I don't know how many people are participating today. A dozen, less, seven. That to 200,000 takes a long time. And
Director Russell, what came to my mind along those lines is for starters, what may work is bring to a board meeting the changes and maybe live navigating the site to help folks. Because, we do, we could select a board meeting that has broad interest and we think we'll have a number of folks. Because the goal is it'll be intuitive, but it is so significant to our customers, and they have been, we've heard for years, the challenges getting through navigating our agendas. So I think as a starter, something like that, and really touting, because it is such a big improvement for how our customers access our information.
I think that's a great idea. I think I would go one step further, which is I'd put a tutorial up on the webpage.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That is in our outreach plan rollout for agenda management system.
Good.
Yep, we've got some plans for that. The agenda management system for sure, because we understand people have bookmarked things and figured out a way, especially those that tune in frequently. And so we want to make sure they're along for the ride of the changes. So
To that end, are we considering stopping sending out the agendas? Can we do that? Can we do it? Yeah.
Now, are we even doing that?
We send out 5 agendas for every board and committee meeting, and then that's it.
No person, no people.
No people.
That's just libraries and stuff, right?
Yeah, libraries and stuff.
This is great. Thank you so much. And and we are not experts in web design or communications or media. But we are experiencers of these things. And so
For sure.
I think, Director Russell's comments are right in line, which is how is, we can all come up with something that looks really great to us, but it's how do the common users really experience it? And to that end, I wonder, whether there's, a way to test some of the phraseology, like when you say when someone comes onto the webpage and they're like the Mount Tam watershed, like, what am I going to find there? Or what are people looking for? I don't know, I think that the layout and the design is going to be great. Sometimes I think it's just what are the key words that are used that sometimes are unclear? Is that where I'll find my recreation stuff, or is that where I'm going to find things on ecology or whatever, depends on what people are there for. So, if there's some way to test with your grandmother, or your friends or whatever, just to what do people think when they come there? Because we're all so familiar with it. I don't think we're an unbiased or,
Great.
sample.
yeah,
So,
no, that's a
thank
good
you.
point. Yep, thank you. Right. Okay. One other thing I wanted to circle back on, it got mentioned briefly at an update that our water efficiency manager did for the board recently, but we did pilot a targeted digital marketing campaign recently. This was a month-long digital advertising campaign that ran in both English and Spanish. I said final push to promote these rebate programs, but I didn't say which ones. Final push to promote our toilet and clothes washer rebate programs. As we know, they may be up for decision on sunsetting at the end of the year. And so we wanted to just bolster our efforts there one last time, and also take this opportunity to try out this advertising platform that we may be using more of as we move forward and try to market to our customers. So we targeted residents in our district service area who met certain criteria that we'd worked with the advertising vendor to put together: the age of their home, if they had been doing any remodeling, research online, what their environmental interests were, et cetera. And they were served these brief video ads to the places online that they visited the most. So it could be on Marin IJ, it could be on a retail website, but they would see these ads very similar to how they look on here. And then we also use this as an opportunity to perform some A/B testing to see what types of messages people responded to. Even though we were promoting the same rebate programs, we were presenting the information in different ways. And so we did one that was more sustainability focused on preserving our water supply, and also one that was more money saving focused. And so after a month of running the campaign, we have our overall campaign performance from those. We had just under 700,000 impressions. That's the total number of times that the ad was viewed. And then we had 582 clicks. So the number of times that a person saw the ad, was served it, and then actually clicked to go through to learn more about it on our website. That's actually really good performance, 0.38% click-through rate, which is 5.43 times the national average. One really interesting point on this, though, we saw 1,067 view-throughs, which is really high view-through rate. And a view-through is when someone sees an ad, but they won't click on it, but then on their own, they'll go research it directly on the provider's website. So would visit our site, went to learn more about that. You usually don't see that number to be close to the number of total actual clicks on the ad. So it does show that we have a very engaged audience. Don't know all of what's playing in there. Maybe they don't want to click on the ad and they don't want to be tracked, but really they are being tracked. Anyways, just something to watch. And I think that says a lot about our community and that they are paying attention to the content that Marin Water is putting out there. So that was really encouraging. And then in terms of the A/B ad testing creative performance on the sustainability versus savings focused message, we did see a sustainability message perform slightly higher, not a huge difference, but enough, to make note of it. There could be other things going on there too. We used real visual, video imagery of our watershed. That kind of local content might be more engaging for our customers as compared to the more infographic focused and designed ad.
Yeah, I can imagine a video of a washing machine wouldn't probably be very exciting, let alone a toilet. But
so the toilet and the washing machine was actually the first parts of that video mess, and then it
but I think kind of also because part of the reason why we're sunsetting these programs is because there's a low participation and there might be just a low interest, and so you might actually be seeing a difference there in just that people aren't as as interested in.
We had one applicant through the advertising. So
That database. Because obviously. But there is data out there. No idea what. Yes, it's complete. There, it's a slick form. But then pull out, tear the bottom off. Color print both sides, if cardboard. I don't know where it's even going. I didn't look.
I think that's a good point that Larry's bringing up, which is that like with media and, when we are in the drought, a lot of people are asking about drought right now. ADUs are quite in the news. So, and so it might be helpful that parts of our, our landing page are obviously targeting what we think are the issues of the day. So that when people, there might be a higher degree of a number of people who are coming to our website now to kind of go, oh, if I want to put in ADU, what are my water issues that I've got that I'll need to deal with, or, things like that. So I think that's a good idea to think about what's going around in elsewhere in that's being advertised or information that's going out.
Great. Thank
Adrian,
you.
I think we've talked about this before, but I think it'd be really good to have deeper level of analytics here and there's plenty of opportunities for us to get that either through Google Analytics or otherwise. But I can forward you a couple of my companies that do this, in great detail, looking at targets, looking at comparison year over year, month over month. Where do we want to be? Are we hitting our goals? How can we do better? And there are other types of analytics beyond impressions and clicks, which I think could be super helpful as we look at engagement and action that
For
people are
sure.
taking. So I'll forward you a couple of them, but I think we can set some goals and
Yeah.
get deeper in here,
Yeah, sounds
especially
good.
with the new website. So now you can show off your success.
Definitely. And this was a pilot ad campaign, so we don't have comparable
Yep.
data on running this type of campaign. And this is a pretty high level summary of a more detailed report we got. It was a little tough to decide what to bring for. Some of the data was a little muddied,
Right.
and I would love to look closer at the Spanish analytics too that we got from it on the Spanish ads and how they performed. They just didn't match up one-to-one on here, but I think there's more to do with that in the future. Yeah, and certainly more we can show in terms of the information we're getting back from these campaigns. There's no opt-out. Yeah. No. I mean, well, yeah, I mean, if they choose not to accept, when they go to a website and it's, and it asks about cookies, right? You have an option of saying yes or no. Yeah. So that does exist. Yes. On our website. Yeah, no. Right. No. No.
Well, maybe we should check though. Because, you can really see it. It's in California, because when you link, no matter where they come from, when you hit them, they come up with that cookie question because they're afraid of California. Now the e-news, we probably do have
We do have an opt-in and an opt-out. Yeah. And that's required by law, and we do follow that closely. Yes, of course. All right. So moving on to our customer research and engagement efforts. So we did recently launch a customer survey, and this was conducted by FM3 Research. I introduced Lucia earlier, and this was conducted within our district service area. The purpose of it was to gather information to better understand our customers, how familiar they are with our programs, do they use our programs, and what might motivate them to engage further in our program and resource information. And then since we were running the survey, we did take the opportunity to include broader questions too about the district, to get an understanding of their overall satisfaction with district services, and to learn more about their understanding of the district as their primary water source, where their water comes from, and also any preferences they have for receiving information from the district. And so that information, combined with other available data and some other planned community engagement we have coming up, is going to help us in developing our new marketing campaigns. And so I will turn it over to Lucia now to go through those findings.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So these are the results of a survey that we conducted at the end of July. So we spoke to just over 400 customers. So there's about a margin of error, about 4.9% on the data. And we used a variety of contact methods to be as inclusive as possible. So we reached out to folks through phone calls, email invitations, and text invitations. The phone calls brought someone to a phone interview, and the email and text brought them to an online platform. There's some comparisons in the data to a 2018 survey that was conducted by another research firm. So just call that out where that pops up throughout the slides. So getting into some of the impressions of Marin Water. We asked folks in an open-ended question if they could tell us who provides the water service for their home. And then we coded that out. As you can see, there's very broad awareness. 98% either said, Marin Water Department, Marin Municipal Water District. So very, very high awareness. There does seem to be an increase relative to 2018. I'm not 100% sure if in 2018 they only did phone interviews. That could the mode could.
Yes.
Okay, so that definitely could be why we have a little bit higher awareness this go around, but either way, very high degree of engagement right now and awareness. We then provided a little bit of context and we said Marin Water provides drinking water for more than 191,000 customers. And we asked them if they approved or disapproved of the job being done by Marin Water. 69% said they approved and 23% disapproved. And 26% said they strongly approved. Relative to 2018, this is a slight decrease in the overall approval rating. So we did luckily ask some follow-up questions here. So we asked those who approve what drove them to feel approval of the job being done. And we also asked the same of the disapprove. So looking at some of those. So this was another open-ended question where we then took respondents and coded them out thematically. So it does add up to more than 100% because people volunteered various themes throughout. But the driving reason behind approval really is satisfaction with the quality of water and safety of the water and the reliability of service. Those are the two driving core elements here that drive the approval. And then on the flip side, for those who expressed disapproval about that 1 quarter, we asked them the reason. And the most common theme was cost and financial management. 55% had concerns about the cost of service or financial management. And then 1 in 5 had comments about drought or quality of water. And then going further down the list, you see Mountain Tam watershed and reliability, but those are relatively small proportions considering that's 15% of 94 respondents. So, so it really is cost overall.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When were these surveys taken?
It was July 26 to 31.
Okay, thanks.
We also asked about satisfactions about a variety of aspects of the water service. So, having a reliable water supply, the smell and taste, and the quality of drinking water, as well as the cost. We see very broad satisfaction with the reliability, smell, taste, and quality. 85% or more saying satisfied, more than half. In the case of reliability, more than 2/3 saying they're very satisfied, very few dissatisfied, 1 in 10. On the aspect of cost, folks are divided, 45% satisfied and 52% dissatisfied, with 27% very dissatisfied. We also asked about a series of more detailed elements of water service. On average, for those who are able to express an opinion, we did see response to service disruptions and customer service ranking highest on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 was extremely dissatisfied and 10 was extremely satisfied. But if we put aside the people who don't know, because that green bar includes people who didn't have enough experience to offer an opinion on those aspects, we do see that just looking at that 9 to 10 rating, the encouraging customers to conserve water is the highest, and then protection of watershed lands is the highest. So among those who overall, those are the highest satisfaction ratings. So a few ways to look at this data. But on the whole, on that 1 to 10 scale, folks are satisfied with most things. I think the lowest ranking one here that gets that 5.0 average rating is the preparing for future droughts item. So getting into the water efficiency programs. So we asked folks whether they felt like it was important to reduce water usage and use water efficiently, even though we are not currently in a drought. And we saw a lot of value assigned to conservation in this community. 74% of respondents said it was extremely or very important to to use water efficiently, even though we are not currently in a drought. And only about a quarter said it was somewhat or not important, and only 6% said not important. So we asked them also if they had taken steps to reduce their water usage, and we saw that virtually everyone said they have taken some steps. 18% said they had taken small steps, 43% said they had taken significant steps, but could still do more. And then 39% said they had already done everything they could do to reduce their water usage. And there was not much more they felt they could do.
It's a little bit in contrast with the last slide, where 6% said it wasn't important, yet there's 0% that say they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
So a little,
Well, I will say, the previous question focuses on the fact that we're not currently in a drought, right? So we have been in a drought in the past. So, and the other thing is there's other motivators to reduce your water usage, even if you don't prioritize conservation, including cost. So there could
Sure.
be. We asked folks whether about a statement saying, I need help to find the best ways to reduce my water use. We saw that 43% agreed with this and said that they needed some help to find ways to reduce their water use, although there was not a lot of intensity. Only 7% strongly agreed with that statement. And a majority disagreed, 54% disagreed, and basically meaning that they didn't feel like they needed help finding ways to reduce their water usage at this point. And 29% strongly disagreed. So those are the people who are quite confident that they know what they need to do to reduce water use.
Did we dive into any of those responses? Like why you don't is because I already know, or, or if you do, what do you need? I don't know if but
We did not necessarily ask like the open-ended follow-up here, but we did ask a little bit about the types of programs, and we can definitely look a little bit more in the crosstabs too to see if there's anything there in terms of relationship between the questions. But
it'd be helpful.
we did look at the demographic groups a little bit, but there's a higher margin of error there. So I've been talking to the team about how to interpret that data.
It'd be great to know that 54%, it's a big number,
Yeah.
and that says basically like, I don't need to know more.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't know that they actually have more to learn, but it would be great to, if there was some way to unpack that, because that's obviously a group that we'd want to chip away at, because I'm still learning things every day. So I kind of like to think that there's always something to be learned if we just are providing the right information in front of folks.
Absolutely. Yeah. We did ask about some of the reasons why people might reduce their water use. And so this is another place where we could kind of look at that relationship between people who are doing it or think they have things to learn still. But overall, we saw that protecting water supply and reliability and preparing for future droughts, protecting the environment, those were kind of, and I should say sustainability, those have a lot of intensity behind them. 70% or more are saying these are major reasons why they would reduce their water use and use water more efficiently. More than 9 in 10 are saying it's a major or minor reason. Saving money on their water bill, 91% said it was a major or minor reason, with 57% saying a major reason, and preparing for climate change. 67% said that was major, and 88% major or minor. So really the water supply and future droughts environment, really at the core of why people feel compelled to use water efficiently. Further down the list, we see other items. Another kind of top ranking item there is improving wildfire resilience. 64% said that was a major reason, with 86% saying it's a major or minor reason. Protecting wildlife habitats also highly important. As we go down further the list, the overall importance of these are, motivation is still a majority, but we're starting to get a little bit less intensity. So saving energy, 42% say this is a major reason. So centering more wildfire resilience, the sustainability, climate change, future generations, and water supply, that all was more of a motivator than just saving energy on the whole. And then there are some items like increasing your home's value, adopting the newest technology, and setting a good example for your community. All of those, a majority said, was a major or minor reason, but only about 1 in 5 to a quarter saying it was a major motivator for them. We also asked about their experiences using the programs. So 1/4 said they had used one of Marin Water's rebates, incentives, or water efficiency programs, so 26%. A majority said they had not used one. We asked folks if they had ever started the process of applying for a program and then abandoned it or not completed it. And then for those who said that they had, we asked a follow-up to understand why. So we saw that just over 1 in 10 said they had started a process but not completed it. And the main reasons were too many requirements and confusion. We also saw a quarter saying a rebate amount was insufficient for them. So then we asked about a list of Marin Water's incentives and rebates and programs that were available. We allowed folks to tell us whether they had used this program, not used it, or if they'd never heard of it or didn't know. So we saw that the most commonly used ones were some of these programs that we've been talking about sounds like they are longstanding from my understanding. So free water efficient fixtures and toilet replacement, about 1 in 5 had used those programs. And they also had pretty high awareness. We only had about a third to 2 in 5 saying they hadn't heard of these. Then we get kind of further down the list, the discount on the smart home monitors, 1 in 10, clothes washer rebate, 1 in 10, discount on irrigation controllers, less than 1 in 10 have used that. And you see more than half, 55%, unfamiliar with this.
Ben mentioned to me the other day that 65% of the Flume units were offline. That seems like something we should be thinking about. I think it's 0% of AMI are offline, I would assume. You know, I mean, there may be some broken ones, but there's nobody shutting them off or not doing something to re-engage them. It's an interesting comment, I think, on this issue of how important they think it is. I mean, personally, I have AMI and I think it's invaluable. I mean, I rely on it. Not often, but I would be very unhappy if it didn't respond when we queued it to find out what's up. Yet they seem to be satisfied. 65% of them don't care. You know, maybe they felt they got what they needed out of it, but you know, like I say, I mean, that doesn't really work because a flash picture in time back 3 years ago doesn't help you very much today. So I realize it's not your problem. It's more Adrian, but it's just something that I've been thinking about. Why? Because I know you have the Flume one there.
Yeah, for me, it does indicate the distinction of Flume and AMI in that Flume is reliant on an ongoing customer involvement, right? So they do have to be committed. I do suspect that some people do feel like it's gained them an understanding of how water is used in their house. But it does seem, I agree with you, they're missing the ongoing leak detection benefit from the alert. So now,
and also the usage that if you don't monitor your usage, you're not going to be paying much attention. I mean, you're doing what you can do, but you don't really know how you're doing.
yeah,
you know.
but it
It's
is
just a much more
interesting.
complex installation and
Yeah, but
and
it's been
maintenance.
installed. They just let
The
it go.
the flumes, yeah, you have to.
No, but they've already done that.
Yeah, so
let
these
it
are
go.
folks that generally installed it, and let's say they lost their wireless connection and they haven't followed up on it,
Changed
or
the internet.
so
carriers
yeah,
or-
something like that. So it is interesting, but it's also a database that we have, at least the ones that went through us, and we could, reach out to them potentially.
I mean, it's an interesting topic because there's different parts of it. One is like, I just wanted to learn how I'm using water. And then you might have made changes and been like, okay, now my water use is at a new level that is, I'm comfortable with, I'm good with it. When I looked at it, it said something that no longer surprised me. And that gets the change in use benefit. Then there's the leak detection. Then there's like like when I got a notice when I was on the East Coast from my Flume device that I had a leak, and I like called people up and found out it was a toilet flapper that was stuck up. And it's amazing how much your toilet can waste under that circumstance. But I think that that's the other benefit of it, that that you only need it when it's broken. And I think that's and then you whenever when your Wi-Fi goes down or something, you're like, I don't I've already learned what I need to learn, and that's just I don't know if there's anything around that. That's just human behavior. Why do I pay attention to something that's not a problem? So
We digress.
No problem. This list continues. On the next slide. So these are kind of the remaining items. These are the other programs. These are ones that have much lower usage rates than the ones I showed you in the previous slide. But something that really jumped out at us looking at this was the high degree of awareness for Cash for Grass, even though it's the one where has, again, pretty low usage rates. So 64% said they didn't use it. But far fewer people were saying they hadn't heard of it compared to some of the other rebates and programs.
Although this speaks to the problem we're facing. I mean, it's not working. Our approach isn't working. So whatever we're doing has got to be changed if we want it to succeed, because, you know, we're not ringing the bell here.
So this next section covers customers' experiences with customer service for Marin Water. So about half said they had had direct contact with Marin Water, and 29% had done so within the last 12 months. And we did ask folks about those experiences with Marin Water, and those who had had contact were broadly satisfied on a number of aspects of their service. So professionalism, courtesy, willingness to help. More than 4 in 5 were satisfied. And 62% very satisfied. So majority is very satisfied. The kind of lowest one is still 74% satisfied. And that was timeliness, with 1 in 10 dissatisfied with that experience. And so then getting into their communication preferences, we saw that 3/4 said they had received information or communications from Marin Water overall, and 71% said they had seen them within the last 12 months. So obviously most customers, probably 100% have received communications, but so this is their kind of recall. So it's quite high number of recall. And among those, we asked them how helpful they felt those communications were. And 70% said they were helpful. 20% said they were very helpful. Only 17% said not too helpful, and 5% not at all helpful. And we also asked folks how they wanted to be informed about local water and water related issues. So 2/3 said they really favored getting their monthly newsletter emailed to their inbox. So email notification, really. Inserts included in their bills was another really common preference, with 49%, 31% saying the website is a good place. And then to a lesser degree, we see social media, printed community events, and then TV and radio. So finally, just to wrap up, and not to belabor the point too much, because this is a long summary of everything I just said to you, but I think the findings suggest that customers are really satisfied with the core aspects of the service: the water supply, the safety, and the reliability. The cost is the aspect that they're most divided on. And there is an opportunity to kind of increase awareness of quite a few of the water efficiency programs, particularly when there is about 2 in 5 who are interested in doing more to conserve water. And so with that, I can pass it back to Adrian.
Do you have any thought on the 55% who are dissatisfied with cost? Is it just the dollars, or do they actually have substantive comments? Or did you ask that?
No, we did have that open end, and I can definitely go back and look at it in greater detail. But from what I recall reading through it, I read through all the comments, a lot of it was on just feeling like they're paying a lot for what they're getting, and that, you know, there's a lot of cost of living anxiety in general throughout the state. And so there was a lot of emphasis on that. The part I want to relook at is there were some comments on financial management. So I'll revisit that and touch base with Adrian, but largely the comments were just, it's high cost of service.
I think that's part of why I asked the timing of the survey. It happened right as we had just done the rate increase. And so I think there might have been a lot of, you know, greater awareness or thought around I mean, I don't think anybody embraces a rate increase as a positive step in their life. And so I just wonder if that might have had a higher recent, you know, awareness, you know, in the public. It'd be also really curious, just, you know, how does that track? Like, I'm part of me wonders, like, how to look at these statistics relative to other water districts. Like, you surveyed East Bay, if East Bay Mud surveyed their customers, how many, do they, is there always kind of like people who just, I think perception wise think water is just should be cheaper, and because it's just, I think maybe it's a lack of awareness of what it takes to actually treat and move and really the true value of water, or what it takes to have reliable water supply in a warming climate. So it'd be interesting to, if there was statistics from another water agency around this. A couple other just quick comments. I think and this maybe goes back to some messaging and that Adrienne, I don't know if you have some thoughts about, but I continue to get the question to this day of like, are we in a drought? And you did mention that we're not in a drought. And I think that this is the tension, is that we, when you read in the media, and if you're tracking, you look at just, again, we're like the hottest July, hottest August, climate related impacts on wildfire and other things that just keep saying drought is almost the wrong term, I think, at this point, because we're in a drying climate where we might have wet years like we had, but not to go into all the messaging or the facts, but I think we need to help our customers understand. And I think that, why we are still functionally treating ourselves like we are in a drought, because we know it's only a matter of time. We are the water managers who know the science and know what we need to be doing today to be prepared. And I think conveying that ongoing urgency is a service to our community. So maybe that's just some messaging to be thoughtful about, because I think, again, people keep asking me. And I think also, knowing that we are going back to cost and the recent rate increase, I don't know whether, again, on our landing page, that might, excuse me, be something that people come to our webpage more frequently in the near future about, like, whoa, why did my bill go up? And I think we ought to have something there that concisely summarizes, the rate increase process and the reasoning behind, what the rate increase was about, so that people can quickly maybe get that concern quickly addressed on our website.
Yeah, I will note on that last point, we have a banner on, it's on every page of our website right now, and will continue to be through September and October when people are receiving their first bill that reflects the new rates. That does just acknowledge that a rate increase was adopted, and that it's reflected on September and October bills, and takes them to our rate setting webpage, where they can get the summary of what's included in that. And then in that slideshow I showed earlier, that's going to be kind of advertising different points. It will have a slide dedicated to promoting our discount programs that are available. And then also another slide that highlights just ways that you can reduce your water use, save money on your water bill, and takes them to our water efficiency resources. So we're definitely planning ahead for the timing of the publishing of that page and what will be happening at that time.
Thank you. Just two quick comments. Building on Monty's point about looking at other agencies, I do think we are unique in a lot of ways, and it stands out when people's view of the need for use of technology leans towards the impact on wildfire, protecting wildlife habitats, saving energy. I think we have somewhat of a unique organization here with 22,000 acres that we care for, and endangered species, and a customer base that is super thoughtful about these issues. So that really stands out to me. I was very impressed that actually 100 people, 1 in 4, have used our programs. That sounds remarkable. And so kudos to us for getting out there. I think we have a messaging issue with our finances. This is a frugal organization. This is a thoughtful organization. It's not wasteful. And that is not something that I think the public understands and perceives. And I think we should explain some of the extremely deep, thoughtful cost-cutting measures that we have put in place, and in a way we can promote that, so that we're not just raising rates, but we're looking at every single line item in our budget, looking at every piece, every head count, to make sure that we are being as efficient and thoughtful with our customer and the public's money. So I think that's probably a finance committee follow-up, that this is not just how we're spending it, but we really need to articulate how we're saving it. And since that jumps out as the top concern, I think we can address it head on. But thank you. I'm good. Any public comment, Terry?
Oh, there's a little bit
There's more?
more.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought we were done. Yep.
That's okay.
I just thought the
Because we want to talk just briefly about next steps.
Yep.
Well, actually, and one more thing to highlight on the research and engagement front. So we do have a water efficiency customer workshop planned for Thursday, August 29th. That's a Tuesday. It's from 10:30 to 2:30 at Corte Madera Community Center. So definitely a significant time investment, but we're inviting our customers to come learn more about our, did I say the wrong day? Oh, oops, sorry about that on the invite. Anyways, we will get that fixed. But this is an opportunity to educate our customers about our water efficiency programs in a more in-depth way, and give them an opportunity to provide input on our future programs, our goals and initiatives. And so we will be starting the day with kind of a kickoff welcome presentation overview. And then we're going to break out into small groups. We'll have 5 different stations, and we'll have staff presenting at each of those stations to give an overview and the different topic areas that are listed. And then really have kind of deeper conversation with the attendees about each of those subject areas. And then we do hope this is a chance to kind of bring in some of our community members and help, they can help be ambassadors of our programs. Word of mouth is really important as well, and getting the word out about things. And we rely on others to help us. So it'll be a good opportunity for that. And then also to get their feedback as well as we're kind of shaping next steps of our program areas. And we've done a lot to promote this. We've had weekly social media posts. It was featured in our August e-news. And then we've done community calendar listings in our local print and digital news publications. And so we are capping it at 50 just for the format of the event. We want to make it really engaging conversation at each of the stations. And we've got just a dozen seats left open. So we have 38 registrants. So really pleased with how that's going promotion wise, and our staff are really looking forward to that day. And if anyone is interested in registering, we have marinwater.org/events and webinars URL up here on the slide. And if you go to that, you can reach the Eventbrite registration page.
So is it Tuesday?
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
It's a
Okay.
Tuesday. I'm sorry.
It isn't night.
Yep.
All right. And so then next steps, we've done this research. We are still kind of diving into these survey results. We've had them about a week now. And we've been looking through some other research that we have from census data that I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. And then we're going to have this customer workshop. And so bringing kind of all that together and thinking about our next steps, we're really focused in a few different areas. We do want to continue our broad reach marketing. We've been doing lots of kind of general broadcasting of our programs, and through all of our service areas, and we want to continue to do that. But I think we also are interested in exploring some new opportunities for doing kind of larger scale broadcasting of our programs to connect customers with our programs. We saw, we have a quarter of our customers have used or are familiar with our rebates, but there's still a lot of potential there to inform those who have not heard of them. And so we'll do some work there. We also want to bolster our grassroots efforts and engage with our customers when we're meeting with them, doing our conservation assistance program, when we're out at community events and at in-person opportunities. And so we'll be thinking out more engaging materials and ways to try to pique people's interests about the different programs and resources that we offer so they take the next steps for those. And then we'll also be looking to develop new campaign strategies to really target market our programs in a different way than we have in the past, and leaning on some of this new data that we have to help guide us in doing that. So for some of our action items, first, we are working to develop a scope of service in preparation for working with a full service creative agency to really help us around some new marketing campaigns, new messaging, new visuals, just new approaches. for how we'll do that. And we'll be coming up with a list of deliverables that we'll work with that agency on. And then we also want to create optimized marketing campaigns. That's getting back to that targeted marketing and new outreach deliverables using a more research-driven approach. So taking that data and figuring out like how do we really narrow in on our focus on who we're connecting with and the ways that we're trying to connect with them. And so the customer survey findings are going to be helpful with that. They're going to help us to guide us in that campaign messaging development. There were a lot of questions around what do people respond to, what might motivate them to want to take advantage of programs. So we're going to be looking further at that. And then looking also at things that might be barriers to those programs too. If we're seeing that people are going to our site, they're clicking on things, they're looking, what's keeping them from actually taking the next step. And then we also have some ArcGIS demographic data that comes from the U.S. Census data, and it helps us to determine our top customer market segments within Marin County, and it provides profile information on each of them about some of their socioeconomic traits that can help us to determine the best ways to reach them, where they spend their time online and how they spend their money, what their interests are, and that'll help with shaping our campaigns as well, where we're taking a more targeted approach. And then, of course, we're going to monitor our campaign performance, definitely looking more at analytics and different data so we can make tweaks in the campaigns where we need to. And so I tried to lay out here a 6-month plan for this. July, we did our survey, so we can check that off. And then through August and next month in September, we'll be analyzing that data more, having our customer workshop here soon, and then beginning our campaign development, hoping for a campaign launch in September, October. And that'll probably come out in phases, not everything all at once, as we'll be working in a lot of different areas. But hoping to come back to our committee meeting in February and give an update on how things are going. And it'll be about a 5 or 6 month check-in time since campaign launch when we do that review, and then we'll make adjustments as needed. And that's all I have.
And you have that demographic data now, or you've done that, or you're going to show that later, or?
We do have some of it. We haven't dived into it super deep. It is something we want to spend time doing with our creative agency. What we did is we took all of our zip codes in Marin County and then pulled the top 3 for each of those zip code kind of community areas, what those market segments are. And they have names for each of them and the profile traits for them as well. And so we have that information at this point. We haven't taken it any further than that.
I think one thing I learned from Scott Cook, who's a founder of Intuit, and Howard Schultz separately, the Starbucks founder, is that all marketing and messaging revolves around like the customer and everything about them. And too often, I'm not saying you're doing this, but too often organizations focus on their features and their benefits. Like, we have this and we're going to give this to you and it's going to do this. But really it all starts with who is the customer? Who are they? What do they care about? What are they worried about? What's going on in their lives? And it's not everyone. It's not 191,000 people. There's probably very certain people that care a lot more than others. And when I was kind of helping build a company called Revolution Foods that delivers 4 million meals to kids nationwide that are low income, the customer is different, right? We have kids who obviously need to have and eat good, healthy food, but and so the messaging is important to them, but it's very different than the messaging to the parents about why we're not giving them chocolate milk with tons of sugar in it, and the value and the health benefits and how they're going to deal with school better, which is very different than the administrators in the school who want the kids to pay attention and not fall asleep in class after their sugar high goes down. So I have a hunch that your demographic information will be your psychographic and demographic information will guide your messaging, which could be different. And as much as we can see about who really does care, who's following the water bill, who's taking care of their landscape, which areas of our region are more concerned and more interested and more opportunities for us to be successful. Well, when you answer those high level questions, in the case of Revolution Foods, it was moms, this is their age, here's how old the kids are. the messaging, the language, the color, all of that kind of came together, and it'll kind of flow easier, and hopefully be more successful. So looking forward to it. Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you.
Just a couple thoughts. It's fascinating stuff. And this is really, I really appreciate that we take the time to do this, because this is, I think, part of how we really do serve our customers, is that we actually take the time to ask the questions and do the surveys and reach out to try to make sure we're being responsive to people's needs, and to connect with people for the benefit of their water supply reliability and other things. I really just, really want to highlight too that we are an agency that is attempting to be, and I think we are on the cutting edge of trying to address the future reliability and our needs given a changing climate. And I think that highlighting somewhere on our homepage, our water future, that could maybe explain, all the projects that we're doing to have water supply reliability into the future, but also some information that's just like, if about anticipated or experienced climate impacts on our water supply. Something that just, I think, becomes an educational resource in part for people who wonder, why is water supply reliability into the future such a risky endeavor, and what it is that we are doing, and that we are forward thinking, because that's what we are supposed to do. On a different note, I do wonder whether getting some data from other water districts would help us to see our numbers in the context. I know that every water district is different. Just food for thought, whether that would be like use of rebates. Like, are we like rocking it because we got 25% of our customers are using it? That seems like a pretty great number, but maybe East Bay Mud is getting 52%, and then we know, oh wow, there's the reasonability to think that we could do better. But it's hard to sometimes look at some of the data without knowing how it compares to others. And lastly, I want to go back to something that Jed just said, which is, understand our customers and who they are as people. And you talked about kids, which was ironically exactly where I was, something I was thinking about, which is, what are we doing to reach out to our kids? Because sometimes it's, my kids come home with, stuff, and that is the way through which I understand and learn sometimes things that they're learning that are important, and they are in many ways our future customers, and they're certainly beneficiaries of what we're doing today. And so I wonder if maybe at our next committee meeting, or you can speak to whatever you can now, but
Yeah.
I'd
here-
love to know more about what we're doing there, because I know that like they have that each grades have different programs, about water and so forth. And like, if we are, if we can be taking that, if we can be connecting our communications with the various educational programming steps for kids, and be maybe a resource for talking about the water cycle that's in their own, community, things like that. Maybe you're already doing all of it, and you're about to tell me that.
That was a really nice part of last committee presentation. Carrie, our water efficiency manager, covered that. We do have a pretty robust education program where we are in the schools. Our staff are going in, doing presentations. We do field trips to connect with them at a young age and talk about the importance of using water wisely and our water supply and where water comes from. And unfortunately, she's the expert in that area. They take the lead on running those programs, but we do have that information available, and we actually on our website made it easier now to request those presentations as well. You just fill out a simple online form, and so anyone can reach out, any teacher, educator, to do that. And we also promote those opportunities as well.
Yeah, I'd add also to that, the in-class, the very popular Trout in the Classroom program that links to the water cycle and what we do as well. So it's a fairly significant footprint we do have in the education.
Yeah, and that program is run by our watershed
Right.
staff, so we've got it
Yeah,
happening in
I love that
multiple
program.
areas.
For obvious reasons. But I just know that there's always constant changes in sort of educational standards and programming and so forth. And maybe, as an outreach, whether it's you or Carrie or somebody just checks with the, San Rafael city school districts or other school districts just to see if there are new opportunity points that are coming along where we can make that engagement more effective. But that's great. I know we do have great programs, so thank you.
Mhm.
It's interesting because, that's exactly how they sold seatbelts is to the kids. And I'm very impressed and have been impressed since I've joined the board with the coordination between school districts and the water district. It's done well. And it's something that it's obviously very important to them. I'd also like to thank you, Lucia, and FM3 for turning that data around so quickly. We're used to more like 6 months to get these kind of results, not 4 weeks. So we appreciate that very much, or 2 weeks even.
Our pleasure. We do have a public comment. I just want to remind this person and as well as others that you have up to 3 minutes. Oh, we have a couple. Phil Sauter and then Laura Lovett. Mr. Sauter, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's impressive that the district puts such a high value on keeping in touch with its customers. Based on a preliminary look at per capita daily use, I found that per capita winter use has fallen from 60 gallons per capita per day to 50 gallons per capita per day over the past 7 years. And that per capita summer use has fallen from 120 gallons per capita to 85 gallons per capita per day, primarily over the last 2 years. That suggests outdoor water use has fallen from 60 gallons per capita to 35 over the past 2 years. That's huge. A 25 gallon per capita per day increase across 190,000 customers is 5 million gallons a day. And that's consistent with the production numbers we're currently seeing. So my question is, how can we analyze customer data to find out where, how, and why this sudden change has occurred? Amen to Director Smith's comments. I think that customer segmentation is likely to be a major tool for the communications team. What if we found out that we don't need to get the same message to all 190,000 customers, but rather need to get a targeted message to 1,000 customers or a personal visit to 100 customers? Wouldn't that affect the ways we communicate as well as the results we get? I mentioned a few months ago that very few of the folks I talk with on a regular basis use much outdoor water at all. But one of my neighbors visited a home in the Dominican neighborhood. As he stepped out of his car, he sunk an inch deep into a wet green lawn. That customer is quite different from the majority of district customers and needs a different message. My suggestion is that staff perform a quick and dirty segmentation between the typical user and the super users who are so far resistant to messages of conservation. If these super users turn out to be a very small number, say 1% of the customer base, but a very large proportion of outdoor water use, it would really give the communications team and the board and the public some useful information. Those 1% won't even be a blip on the overall statistics of a customer survey, but they'll be a major factor in reducing the wasting of valuable potable water for non-potable purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. And Miss Laura Lovett, please.
Hi, this is Laura Lovett, board member, Marin Chapter, California Native Plant Society. I want to recruit you for an upcoming project. And it is a different kind of outreach that I didn't hear you talking about. I have been tending public beds and planting natives in them in Larkspur for 7 or 8 years now. I started in front of the Lark Theater. This spring, we did the police station garden with support from you. Thank you very much. This fall, the city is putting in native plants in the downtown parking area. But of course, the big unknown is the library parcel. And a group of us have already approached the Commons Foundation about the garden there, sorry, being future forward. And by that, I mean designed for the future, the weather and the conditions and the soil that we're going to have, and not the same old stuff that they already know how to do. And it's clear they don't know what that is. I put together a PowerPoint. They didn't want to look at it. The city has said, we don't really have any input because the landscape architect comes with the architect and we're picking the architect, which I think is nonsense, because if you're paying $1 million for a landscape, you get some input in it. But when I'm talking about like a future forward or forward thinking landscape, it would require less water and maintenance. Once it's established, it's less flammable in fire. It has more biodiversity. It uses no chemicals. It addresses flooding and stormwater management, reduces carbon in the air, accommodates sea level rise, is resilient in the face of change, and reminds us what a complex multifunction ecosystem actually looks like, because we don't have very many left. And I think the parcel around the library is an ideal place to plant this kind of garden. And what we desperately need examples. One of the things that will really motivate people in your district to change over to this kind of planting is if they can see what it looks like and see how beautiful it is. So this business of not having any input because basically the landscape architect comes with the architect, I just think is nonsense. And they have no trouble ignoring me. But if the water district president called up the Commons Foundation and said, we want to see this better future landscape, we want an example to send people to that's right down the road from us, where they can see how it's done and what it looks like and what it includes. I think that would go a huge way toward helping people move toward that kind of landscaping. I mean, native plants take 1/4 the water of East Coast things like roses and hydrangeas, and 50% less water than even things from Mediterranean climates. So if you could get people moving in this direction, you're going to see a huge drop in outdoor water use.
Thank you, Ms. Levitt.
No more?
There are no further speakers.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, team. We do have an upcoming operations meeting on Friday, the 18th at 9:30 a.m. And then on Thursday, the 24th, there's a finance and administration committee meeting. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.